Greetings, my name is Michael Miller. This is a Michael Miller trademark training video. Out to you because you're watching. Thank you and welcome. It's meant for Michael Miller Pilates licensed affiliates. The Core New Core, my patrons, Clayton, Ruby, and Stephanie, and anyone interested in surviving and thriving as a Pilates instructor and student. Three things on my list today. The first one I have the most to say about, and then the other two are just brief comments. So the first one, the comment is, or the title is, it's not about the number of reps. And number two is just pointing out that at dateandtime.com, in the App Store, either App Store, you can now search for timeanddate.com Countdown app. That's the name of it, Countdown app. And it's very simple and easy to use, and I immediately applied it to the solstice so that there's an app right there, an icon right there on my desktop, on my phone, that goes to that countdown and actually tracks several. And so I have a countdown to a minute before in order to lead into exhale to prepare. Then what I'm interested in is if everybody has a cell phone and they all have a notification for 9:54 a.m. next Friday, a week from Friday, the 21st, how synchronous will be that alarm that goes off according to the clock that the phone is getting its time from. See what I'm saying? So, fascinating. Not sure how I got off on that. My titles. Oh, I started talking about that's number two. And then number three is about the expansion of the universe is accelerating. So the universe is expanding, yes. Scientists know that. And more than ever now, scientists know that it's not only expanding, but it's expanding at an accelerating rate. At least that's what I read, that's what I get out of it. That's as far as I can explain it. That's one reason why I feel strongest on the inhale, where there's a curve in how much air you're taking in versus how fast it's coming in, kind of thing. There's this peak of the curve of the inhale that maybe it's only whimsy, but it feels like a point of acceleration. And I match that course of the inhale to what I feel is the strength of the movement associated with it. Try it out for yourself and see what you think. So let me go back. Number one. And it seems like all I'm doing is making social commentary on what I see on social media from the point of view of CT and MMP, which is all right by me because that's the whole point of the broadcast. Is to look at what I see or share what I see within the point of view of CT and MMP. Okay? CT is biomechanical and MMP is a point of view of Pilates. So on social media, Pilates is being caricaturized as an instructor that doesn't know the meaning of one more, or do two, or that can't count at all, as though the reps are endless. And that's where I come out with my title that says it's not about the number of reps. See, it's a frame of mind, and I'm trying to share a point of view where it's not about how many reps you do, it's about the quality of the reps that you do, and the recognition that your repetitions over time, usually your first repetition is not a repetition yet, it's just exploration. And then when you repeat that, what was exploration as a repetition, it's coming around on the carousel. It's usually more controlled than the first one because of the focus that's coming into the effort. And that's where we're talking about diving into the focus of your effort. And so the story part of this that might or might not speak directly to what I'm talking about. I'm doing a workshop in a country not my own. Not that that matters, but where there are differences in culture. And a lot of that exists within my own country, so maybe that doesn't matter. In any regard, in any event, I'm doing a workshop with the owner of the studio right there, and the people that are in her studio who are hearing what I have to say, and I'm talking about your effort gets better and then it gets worse. And actually I think I might even go so far as to say, when you start thinking about how much better the next one's going to be, it's time to move on to what's next. And the owner of the studio, my host, said, wait a minute, I decide when it's next. In the attitude of, I think, what's reminiscent of, this thing about the instructor's role is to always ask for more reps than their words say, or more effort, right? They're the drill sergeant. They're the drill instructor, not the dive instructor. So it was an interesting discussion, and so I said to the owner, and I said, so you decide when it's over, okay? For you, when you decide when is it over, and at some point everybody says there is a getting worse to the effort, so it's better to give up than to go on, right? Otherwise, you could just dive as deep as you wanted to and stay for as long as you wanted to without suffering stress or strain, and you'd only do Pilates once and then be able to do it forever. So the characterization in my notes is that Pilates instructors ask for more or want more, they're there to demand more than they say, or that they can't count based on the numbers that they give you and the actual numbers that you do. To me, the mischaracterization or the mistaken identity is that the Pilates instructor isn't there to act as a drill instructor, where asking more for you than you realize you can do, or just more reps as though the belief that more reps, matters more than better dives. There you go. The point of view of more reps and being a drill instructor makes it easy to or requires that you take out 1/3 of Pilates by ignoring, well, in my opinion, spirit, which is observing, to where it's just what the thinking mind demands of the body in performance. You know, Pilates is Yoda. Pilates as an instructor is helping your client try to coordinate 3 of their fundamental capacities. And it's 3, not 2 with an extra one of the other. Not body, mind, and more mind. So, who chooses and when was the question, and for the teacher to say, well, it's up to me to decide when it's time to quit, and yet, okay, as an MMP instructor that's seeking to empower their student in the autonomous embrace of the method, you're teaching them how to coordinate their own capacities through listening to their own sensation. So it isn't about being encouraged to deep diver and keep diving deeper and keep coming back to the same thing, struggling for deeper, and in the effort reach exhaustion and come to the surface. It's not the way I embrace Pilates, because I'm trying to be Yoda, pointing to, now when you go on your dive, you know, look for this and this in terms of sensation, what to listen to sensationally, what to be evaluating. And there they go off into their dive. Seeking to coordinate their own capacities in being, thinking, and observing. You can't stay for long in your effort, and you come back to the surface wild-eyed, or at least really alert to the experience you're in, because you're paying attention to what's going on out there. So my notes say it better than I could paraphrase when I say, if you don't teach them to listen to themselves, then they won't know to. That won't even be part of what they know of as Pilates. Okay? So again, if you don't teach them to listen to themselves, then they won't know to. You will keep them forever in bondage to the external and underthinking, meaning subjugated underthinking. The external, because it's coming from outside you that the evaluation is occurring. The MMP Pilates instructor slides like a dancer in between the student and themselves in their sensational feedback loop. So that when their legs are too heavy in hundreds, they can tell that because of how it feels different than when their legs aren't too heavy in hundreds. Good example, huh? And that's about loading, right? That's why the word loading is in the definition, among many other reasons. So within MMP, however narrow little of a point of view it is on the Pilates culture, in that narrow point of view, you pull the curtain aside to introduce the student to themselves by helping them interact with their own sensation. That gives them more control in themselves as a body moving through space. And as an instructor, I think it's really hard not to just stand in a spotlight, especially the more you know and the deeper you go. Without it turning into full-on, for me, full-on empowerment to where they can go as deep as they want to go in the realms that I have to share with them. And that's enough in terms of empowering someone with whatever part of your point of view they allow themselves to be exposed to. I think that boils down to thanks for listening. You can think of it whatever you want, but in the doing of it, three are completely coordinated. So the number of reps and just the performance of the effort sounds like aerobics to me from a long time ago, doing some aerobics and all kinds of conditioning programs. But see, what is Pilates that makes Pilates Pilates? And to me, the echo that I see on social media that Pilates instructors can't count and they ask for more than what they say. It just so that they make it about counting and making about never being satisfied with enough in terms of counting and what's counting. The whole A point of counting is to recognize where you are in the pattern of repetitions. Because if it's your first, it's not even a repetition. It's the original effort. And then trying to duplicate the original effort, that's your first repetition, but two of the exercise. Language. So my culminating comment to this subject is a question to you about, do you insist, as an instructor, do you insist on leading? And we're talking, I'm dancing metaphor. So in dancing, if you're dancing with a partner, do you insist on leading rather than letting a student follow themselves? Insisting on leading is being the external influence to the other person's movement, if you will. At least it was or meant that sort of thing when I grew up. And so insisting on leading, depending on gender, had its own connotations. And what I want to focus on is the whole notion of leading, and that for the MMP Pilates instructor that's pulling the curtain aside, they surreptitiously stand inside of the dance that's going on within the student and their own sensations. that corrective feedback loop. So in one word, Pilates is exercise. In two words, it's corrective exercise. And the role of the Pilates instructor is to help your student find their own means to participate. They can do it on their own. I watch people do repetitions of an exercise on the reformer. And either they end it or finally I put it out of its misery. But usually if I have to end it, I say, okay, which one was your last one? Was it the one you just did or was it the one before that? And which is a teaching technique all its own when you ask of a student to not only pay attention to repetitions, but to be able to discern the difference between the ones that just happened. And I get the most amazing answers about, oh, well, I don't know, I wasn't paying attention to, oh no, it wasn't the last one. The one right before that, I was really in it, and then I felt the one I just ended with faded. So thanks. See, a Pilates instructor starts off with their student leading up a hill with all, with the guidance and enthusiasm and taking a person on their enthusiasm. But if this is the student, the instructor leading the way sees the student begin to wane and adjust the effort to the cycle in which it's happening in, meaning during the course of 55 minutes in a private session. So, my comment on this title, to me, seems to be trying to make a distinction in the role of the instructor, where, as always, I say you're Yoda pointing into the cave of the sensation, for them to be able to discern on their own, which is what this corrective feedback loop is all about. If you want to challenge fun, do the same thing for all 55 minutes. If you want to challenge having fun. Because fun is new and different, exciting and sensational. It's fun. It's not having to think about anything else other than, but see, you lose that in Pilates because you have something else to think about. But in having captured the thinking with the being and the observing, when is that not fun? When is it not totally thrilling to be present? So. It can be a long time before a student gets to dance with themselves, knowing what to sense and how to sense it and react to it without external help, for sure. But the point, the end goal, is playing Yoda and pointing to the fact that you're observing has to participate. It's one way of putting it. So that's all for that title. Then number two. Number two is simple. Go to dateandtime. No, I said it wrong. Go to either the App Store or iTunes and search for Date and Time Countdown app. That's really great. And I immediately put in the solstice coming up a week from tomorrow at 9:54 a.m. And then the start of the party at the Millennial Fest the next day, 8 p.m. And so I let you know that the timeanddate.com is really been around forever, and that's where you go to seasons and find times for solstices, arrange meetings between different locations internationally. It's a good site, and now they have an app for countdowns. Seems to be the craze. Number 3, last I read, which has been a while ago, maybe things are completely different, but the last I read, the data shows that the universe is not only expanding, but accelerating in its expansion. Go figure, right? But I tie that to two things, sort of how I feel about the cycle of my inhale and how I feel about, say, a motorcycle going through a banked curve. Insofar as, at that point in the inhale, where it seems like you're all but filling your top lobes in your lungs fill out to themselves. Why? Because of the muscular effort of making the inhale, right? But there's that a sense to me of acceleration. I don't know if it's true or not, but that expansion of the inhale toward the end of the inhale, I whimsically think of as an acceleration. Now, I find it interesting that on Google, trying to find information about coming out of a turn, and it's all about safety and nothing about physics other than don't go fast. But when you look at material for race car drivers and the physics that they're looking at, you get more information. And all of that, I don't know, because it's all science over my head. But I know the feeling of an acceleration coming out of a curve. Don't do it. Unless you start really slow and then stay below the speed limit in the doing. Right? Stay within limits. But in the acceleration, to me, my experience is there's a degree of stability in doing that. Maybe I'm completely wrong and it's all whimsical, so check with someone who thinks they know everything to make sure that what I'm saying lies within their parameters of what's safe. Don't try this at home on your own. Other than Paying attention to how you inhale and the stages of your inhale, and where part of it may seem different than other parts. The solstice that's coming up, I think of as a planet or a human being leaning against elastic ropes like in a boxer's ring. Leaning against ropes that then returns back from. It's a tilt in the planet that goes so far and it reaches a point where it starts returning. Now, maybe somebody really, really smart is going to give a good thinking thing about how that's not accurate at all. Within the context of MMP and knowing that the Aztecs survived based on observing changes in time like the solstice, to plan on when to plant their crops, to know when, or to have a yardstick when, but the solstice was what? Observable. So understanding your role as an instructor, a drill instructor, an aerobics instructor, any kind of an instructor that asks for more than what they say they're asking for, that they get characterized like as a Pilates instructor, which I sort of think there's another way to approach Pilates, than acting like a drill instructor, than acting like aerobics, than acting like it's the quantity of what you do that matters more than the quality of what you do. And the great thing about Pilates is there's so much to do in which you can pursue quality overloading on quantity can seem misguided, depending upon your point of view and depending upon your role as an instructor. And my role as an instructor is to play Yoda and help a student find complete coordination of being, thinking, and observing. And there's really nothing better than that. So get as much of it done and do as much of it as you can while you can. Because it'll all go by in a blink. But in your understanding of what it is and why it went by in a blink, I feel reassured that I had fun and that I hopefully was doing my best to be present in the moment. To put in as much coalescence of frequency as I can rather than disruption. But a wisp, but a blink. Life can't live forever. Read between the lines and see behind the curtain. Evaluate points of view, and then ask for 2 + 2. Direct your thinking. Geist,